Hi guys and welcome back. Today I'm working on this little watercolor painting called Little Bird. And I'll have the original painting up at my shop right away, so there's a link down in the description that'll take you to my art shop. But if you'd like to own the print, she's actually an exclusive print for my Patreon for this month. So if you sign up for the top tier, the citrine tiers over on my Patreon, this will come with some other art goodies as well, mailed right to your door. So if you'd like to check that out, there's also a link to my Patreon down below. There's also other tiers as well that are cheaper if you'd like to get a postcard that's also exclusive or just the digital content. And this one, I specifically, when I started working on it, I just wanted to create something that I could have fun with and enjoy. There's a lot of times where I just put myself into a mind space that I just can't get into like an enjoying mode for a piece. I can be really happy with the result and I can like the process of it, but it's not like a fun thing. It's like something that I just have to crank out, or it's almost a little bit stressful even sometimes, where I just want it to be a certain way and perfect, and then it just ends up being that one focus. So I tried to let this one be just something that I could tell myself it's just for fun. There's no pressure. It doesn't have to be perfect. And in the end, it ended up looking like pretty much all of my pieces, I guess, really. But it was a lot more fun. It was interesting how much of a difference just that mindset made. I don't think it's something that it's like every time I do a piece, I just have to say, oh, it's just going to be fun. And then it will be, and everything will be fixed. But this time around, it actually just kind of worked. I was able to let it be just this fun enjoyment process of creating, which I think as artists, a lot of us, at least at some point on certain paintings, go through that, where we're working on something and it just isn't fun. Not necessarily that it's the opposite of fun, but we're not really enjoying it. And I really want to change that more. I want to be more present with the things that are really enjoyable about creating artwork, and move past the things that sometimes I let come to the forefront of my brain. So this was kind of my attempt, is just letting myself play with the colors and play with the outcome and explore it and see where it went. This one was one where I didn't do a color comp for it. I usually don't when they're this small, or I'll just get a couple colors that I like together, but I had a basic idea in my head. I had a feeling that I wanted in this piece. I wanted it to have these cool colors that felt kind of magical and mystical a little bit. And I think that helped with this being just kind of this exploratory painting. I didn't have everything already checked off before I even started it, where I knew exactly where I was going to end up. It was something that I could see where it went, and there were points where I was like, oh, this isn't looking great, and then I refined it more, and I refined different areas, and it was like, oh, okay, maybe I'm liking this a little bit more. But yeah, I think that in a lot of ways, the mindset or the things that we tell ourselves, even subconsciously, it's not like when I sit down to create a piece, I think, okay, I have to really make this serious. I gotta pay attention to all these things and make sure that I'm not having too much fun. It's just sometimes that way of thinking just kind of creeps in. But anyways, so for this one, I actually did it a little bit reverse for how I normally do it. I think I normally like to paint the background first and then the forefront characters. I think it's because I like to get the part that makes me the most nervous out of the way, and the background usually is, because it usually involves either some rich textures that I don't know if I'll be able to achieve the way that I have it in my head, or a very smooth wash, which is also a tricky thing to do. So I like to usually just like check that off and be able to move on and just focus on all of the other things that are a little bit easier to bite off and focus on and develop over time, like the skin and the hair. It's created over lots of small washes, very manageable washes. So yeah, I did this a little bit out of norm for me, but I think that helped. I think that doing things in a little bit more of a refreshing way can help too, to make things a little bit more new and exploratory. I did have some ideas, like I said at the very beginning, of ways to incorporate colored pencil into this piece, but in the end I actually ended up foregoing that because by the end I really liked where it was and I didn't feel like it needed that, and I knew that it was something so exploratory that I didn't really know if it was going to end up looking good at all. So I decided to like set that aside for another practice piece, something more in my sketchbook that I can just build it around that a little bit more specifically. But what I did have in my head was that I kind of wanted these like radiating rings of colored pencil that were clearly colored pencil coming out of the bird, kind of radiating outward in the background. And I still like that idea. I've been looking at a lot of artwork that has this like really textural colored pencil work, and I think it looks gorgeous. So I think that's what I'm actually going to do today, is I'm just going to do a little bit of testing in my sketchbook watercolor book, so I can see if I like, well, not so much see if I like it, but see how to incorporate it before I get a full piece done. And then I can go into a piece and know what I'm doing and test that out. I think that would be really fun to be able to explore that kind of an idea. Oh, but painting this shirt was actually kind of this like eye-opening moment for me. So I know logically, like in my brain, I know this information, but it's like one of those things that until you kind of stumble on it, it doesn't really, or stumble on actually doing it, it doesn't really cement in. But I've learned that when you mix multiple pigments together to create these like darks, it becomes a lot richer and more beautiful of color. And I have my favorite gray paints. Like I'm not gonna throw those away. I love them, but I was using a specific palette for this one, and I wanted to get the range of colors from it. And it did come with a black, but I already had a puddle of paint that was mixed up that was this like dark blue color, so I decided to enrich it and make it this as close to black as I could. So I think it ended up being a mixture of purple and a red, and I think it was like a Mayan blue, so it was like this really dark, rich blue. And then I added a little bit of that black just to really deepen it, and it just ends up really gorgeous. It's something that's kind of hard to see on the screen, but in person you can see this very slight granulation of how each pigment settles a little bit differently, and it just has this really rich look to it. And I had done several little swatches to make sure that I got the depth and the darkness and the overall color range the way that I wanted on a scratch piece of paper, and I applied it a little bit heavier, like the watercolor that was sitting on top of the paper, there was more of it, I guess you could say. So when it dried, it had even stronger of this granulation to it, and it was just so pretty. And it's really exciting because I've been getting more and more into wanting to have granulated watercolors. And like I said, I kind of knew that already, that mixing colors, you get more depth to it, of course, for these darker colors to get these really rich looks to it. And that you can also, when you mix different pigments, create this granulating effect because the different pigments sink to different levels on the paint, or on the paper, that is, sometimes. So yeah, this was something that is making me want to do a little bit more experimenting with more less traditional mixtures of paints that I'm used to get something that's a little bit more interesting and varied. So for the background, I wanted to create this like glowing halo effect around the bird. Like the bird is this light source. And this is something that I've definitely struggled with watercolors, mostly because I've kind of avoided it, which is terrible because it's an effect that I love. I love these glowing looks to things. But yeah, I didn't get a lot of practice on how to do it because I just avoided it. So I've been trying to embrace those things. So for this, I went in with just clear water right around the bird, and then I went in next with like this turquoise color that would blend into that clear water, and then I took more of a true blue and then let that blend out, and then carried that around to the rest of the background. And it ended up a little bit better than I thought it would. It's very textured around the bird, which it wasn't really something that I envisioned at the beginning. I kind of hoped that it would end up more of a smooth blend, but I actually really love that texture a lot. So I decided after that first layer dried to go in and add a little bit more of that kind of texturing elsewhere in the background. That way it kind of ties together, and I love looking for ways to bring those really interesting textures or effects to different areas, of course sparingly, but in a way that just ties that same object together so it doesn't feel like an accident. It feels much more intentional. And don't forget to check out my Patreon if you want the exclusive print of this again, and also the original painting is also at my shop, so there's both of those links right at the top of the description down below. And I also have links to all of the tools that I use to create this painting down there as well. But that is it for today, so thank you guys so much for watching. I'll be back next week with another video. If you'd like some more content in the meantime, then make sure to follow me at Instagram. I'll also have that link down in the description as well. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you then.